would like to ask a question. Who here secretly thinks I would like to start my own school? Yes, hey. And who has already started a school? Oh, also. Well, then you especially know how difficult it is to start a school here in the Netherlands within the existing education system. My story today is about the schoolmakers, the schoolmakers. And it's about Eva and Rick and Kimo and Annette, and they are, as we speak at the moment, starting a school in Amsterdam right now. And this is quite special, because they are not part of the establishment, they are not the boards, the school boards, but they are teachers, parents, entrepreneurs who are making a change in the Amsterdam education at the moment. And I was in the very privileged position the last year to be able to follow them and work with them. The city of Amsterdam has a shortage of schools due to the rise of student population. And the city of Amsterdam, the municipality, came to Kennisland, which is a think and do tank for social innovation here in the Netherlands. And they asked us the question, could you think of a new way to start schools? Well, this question triggered us immediately, not because we're expert in starting schools, we're not at all, but because this would be such a great way to create innovation in the education system. Now, innovation, it's always a difficult word, and for me it's not only about new products or new concepts, but innovation is the capacity to be able to deal with the unknown, to deal with new things that are coming to us. It's like oxygen for the body, which keeps us fresh and alive. So without it, we die. But innovating the education system is really a hazardous, hard job. Innovation actually has become a bit of a dirty word in education. It's become synonymous with top-down policy change to which teachers, and rightly so, often resist. And of course, there's a lot of innovation going on in schools and in classrooms, but changing the education system as a whole goes really very slow, and it feels like a mammoth tanker trying to steer it in the other direction. And so there's an interesting paradox that in one sense, we all, I think, understand and realize that education is one of the most important things to create an innovative society. But on the other hand, education is really not very good at innovating itself. When we look at other sectors, we see that the innovation and more the disruptive innovation often comes from the outside. So it's people outside the system who bring it in. This is the reason why startups in the business world are often hailed as the motors for innovation. But in education, it's really difficult to come in from the outside. I'm always very happy that at least I can say that my parents were both teachers, because it gives me some legitimacy to talk about education. And also, although it's in the Constitution that we can start schools, this is a really difficult process due to all the regulations and the bureaucracy. And for an outsider, it's really difficult. Kimo here had a plan for starting a school, and she walked around with this plan for 10 years. And being a parent and an ex-teacher, the only thing she actually got was closed doors, until now. So the question is, how do we create more room for the outsiders in education? How do we create this innovative capacity? So, what we thought, what everyone these days thinks when we don't really know what to do, let's crowdsource it. Let's organize a challenge. And let's ask all the people of Amsterdam to participate. And it was due to a very brave alderman of education here in Amsterdam, Simone Kukenheim, who said, yes, let's do it. And she actually dared to let go of control and share responsibility. And you can imagine when we started this off, the school boards were not completely on their chairs of excitement. You know, the things I heard were like, but, you know, building schools is not for amateurs. We should be very serious about this. Or why should we need a challenge? We're already innovating a lot. Why do we need something from the outside? But we went along with it. So we organized a challenge, and we had posters, and we asked all the people in Amsterdam, what is your ideal school? And please hand it in. And now we were a bit worried that actually anyone would respond. I mean, we know people are very interested about the trees in the streets and the pavement and their playgrounds, but would they actually be interested in thinking about schools? Well, they did. We had 175 ideas on the website and 124 plans. So, and we had also in 1 week about 30,000 online voters on the website. So one thing we know is education is hot. And people don't only worry about education or excited about education, they are really willing to act towards it and are committed to it. So from all those 124, we asked 50 to pitch, and it was interesting to see you had entrepreneurs pitching, but also students pitching, youth workers. I especially remember Jasmijn, who is a girl of 16, and she said, I want a school which is stricter. There were also plans about a bus driving through Amsterdam, and that would be the school. And we had a jury. I don't know what happened at this moment. I think they're praying that this was a bad pitch of someone, I think. In the jury, we also had Miriam, who it was a 14-year-old who was part of the jury. And so the jury selected 15 school concepts, and they were part of the incubator, which meant that Kennisland supported them for 4 months, and they got coaches and experts, and we brought them in contact with the Ministry of Education and with the Board of Inspection. But the most important thing was that they really became a group, and that they also said, we don't want to compete each other. We're a movement of school makers, and we're going to make a difference. And, and we had our own test panel, the children of the Kinderpersbureau, who every time also kept a check on what are these people doing and do we still understand and approve. And then, of course, we had 4 winners. There was a commission, and they are now our heroes in a way who are setting up the schools. And when we look at what they are doing, it's interesting also to see what they come up with. So here we have Kimo, and Kimo had a son who really had a problem going through education. They always said, your son has a concentration problem. And it was only after she got a lot of help outside of the school that she thought, but how come schools cannot accommodate wild, energetic boys? And this is not only a problem of my son, but there are a lot of boys that drop out of schools. And we know that boys learn in a different way. So what she did is set up a school for boys geared from the age of 12 to 16, especially for active boys. And so at this school of Kimo, you can have sports every day, there's no homework, and you can make your exams standing up. And Annette here is actually a very experienced school director, and she has a very successful school from the age of 0 to 12. But her dream was, how can I make a school which continues to the age of 18? There's a lot of research out there that says that choosing at the age of 12, which is now the standard in the Netherlands, has a very negative influence. But setting up a school from 0 to 18 is, due to the regulations, almost impossible. And this was the reason why Annette joined the challenge, because she knew that she could never manage this without the help of the school boards and the inspection and the Ministry of Education. And then we also have Rick, an American entrepreneur, who said, why can't we really create a school where you don't learn about the city, but you really learn with and from the city? Like the city as a laboratory for learning. And so they set up the school with a lot of colleagues, with all different organizations here in the city, of the Music Center and Google, where they actually, through design thinking, learn how to solve challenges in the city. And finally, Eva, who set up the Alan Turing School, also with a whole group of other people. Alan Turing being the founder of computers and artificial intelligence, and a school where you don't only learn the basic subjects, but also how to program and think in a logical way. if you ask me what is the biggest value of the challenge, however inspirational these new schools are, and of course we'll have to see how they are going because they receive now 100,000 euros from the city of Amsterdam, and they are now in the moment of finding a location and organizing their governance. So we'll have to see if they stand the test of time. But the most valuable, for me, the lesson of this challenge has been, is the new dialogue that has arisen, a dialogue between the establishment, the school boards, and these school makers, the people from outside. After the initial tension, because in the beginning the school boards thought, well, who are these newcomers? And the people from outside thought, we don't want to have anything to do with these school boards. They actually very much came together. And they actually started to learn from each other, and the school boards thought, but this is really interesting what they're doing, and we can learn from them. But also the school makers thought, well, you know, we can use the experience and expertise of the school boards. So now, actually, all the concepts have some way or another have something to do with the existing school boards. And also a discussion started in the city, which wasn't only about new schools, but also what is actually needed in this city. What are the real problems, and what is needed for the children, and how can schools solve that? And also it was interesting to see that some school boards even had a contact with concepts that didn't win at all. So here in the West, you have Esprit, which is one of the biggest school boards in the city, and they are starting now a new junior high, which is actually inspired on one of the concepts that was developed here in the incubator. And also the Ministry of Education and the inspection have been following this very close and use it now as a pilot for national reform. So when I go back to my initial paradox, why is it so difficult to innovate education while education is so important for innovation? I think the answer is that it's very scary. The stakes are high in education. And I must say, I also understand that it shouldn't be so easy to start a school, and that you and I cannot say, oh, let's start a TED school tomorrow. But on the other hand, if we don't use this creative power in society, it's a really big waste. And it's not only the fresh ideas that we need, the ideas of the students and the parents and the entrepreneurs, but it's also all this resource that is out there, all these people that work so hard for nothing that we would then not use. So I think this challenge showed that perhaps it's not so scary to let the outsider in, and that it can be even nice and pleasant. For me, I think my biggest worry, as director of Kennisland, but also as a citizen of Amsterdam and a parent, is the growing inequality in the city. The growing inequality for kids, that kids from a poor background have less chance or good chances than children from a better background. And also the segregation happening in the city with good schools and weaker schools. And I'm completely aware that however innovative these new schools, that they're not going to solve this huge and big problem. But what I do think is that all these school makers together, that they form something new, that they form a healthy innovation culture. And this culture of new dialogue, of cooperation, of being interested in each other's perspectives, in letting outsiders in, that is something that does encourage me. And that is something that does really make me hopeful. And I think it's also exactly this power that we need to tackle the big questions like how to combat inequality. Because we know that that will never be solved just by a top-down solution or a quick fix. So I'm actually really eager to go on and take a next step, and to build further on this culture of innovation. So I'm really interested perhaps in who would like to join me in not only to build new schools, but also work towards a better society. Thank you.